What is up, DMV Hoops fans? Welcome to another welcome to another Bleav in DMV Hoops. To join us today, we've got Chris Caputo of the George Washington basketball team, head coach. A coach, you're back in the area after having some success early on in your coaching career with George Mason as an assistant coach. We're happy to have you back. This is your second full season at GW.
Yep.
How are things looking for this upcoming season?
Yeah, I'm excited, obviously, to be back. Been back over a year now, so that's great. For me, coming back into an area that I really grew up in the business in and couldn't have picked a better place, right, with such a strong basketball culture like the DMV. I think it's hard to even describe to people how good it is in terms of, high school basketball, college basketball. My years when I was at George Mason, we went to the Final Four. Georgetown went to the Final Four. I got here right on the heels of the Maryland National Championship. American was going to the NCAA tournament. GW was in the top 10. So now you got Howard, obviously had a great year. It's just an incredible place to be a basketball person. And so, for me to be back, I'm excited. I'm excited about our group. Return, like most people in college basketball, there's a lot of turnover, but, we do return James Bishop, first team All-League, Max Edwards, Rookie of the Year. And I really am excited about our newcomers as well.
I think you just nailed exactly why we wanted to do this show and help try to lift the profile of DMV Hoops. I think a lot of these local teams, yourselves included, are on the way up here too. And I think this is really great timing and exciting that so many of these programs seem to be headed on an upward trajectory all at the same time. So it's really cool to be a part of. Before we get going here, just want to give a couple ad reads for everybody. We're brought to you by Stateside Vodka and their Surfside hard iced teas, hard lemonades, hard everything. They're all really delicious. And brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, UFC, tennis, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games. Head to the website today and use our promo code Bleav, BLEAV, for your 50% off welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, we mentioned it up front here. You were the director of basketball ops for George Mason and did some video coordinator work from 2002 to 2005, an assistant coach from 2005 to 2011, including that Final Four run, which is awesome. And then at Miami from 2011 up until 2022, had a lot of success there, worked with Jim Larinaga. Obviously, you guys had some stuff that slowed the program's trajectory down a little bit, but now it's finally catching up to where it should be under Coach Larinaga. And I would imagine you had a lot of opportunities to make a move like this, given the kind of high-profile assistant coach you were, or associate head coach you were. We talked a little bit on the intro there, but why GW of all the options you probably had available to you?
Yeah, well, I had some opportunities. I really loved working for Coach Larinaga. I loved being in Miami, just like I love being at George Mason. I've really been very fortunate in this business, or really in any business, for a long time. I had a great job with great people, and I really didn't have a huge desire to, look at greener grass somewhere else. I was very happy doing, what I was doing, and I was very connected to, our program success and driving the programs that I was involved in forward, and maybe less thinking about my own, ambitions or what have you. But there were certain places and that you would think about and say, hey, if an opportunity became available there, then I would have to really think long and hard about it. And for me to come back to the DMV, to go to a place like GW, that's, one of the really great academic schools in the country, probably the best city campus in America, a name brand all over the world in terms of people know what GW is, a place that had been to 17 postseasons in 25 years, from 1991 to 2016, Sweet 16, NIT championship, top 10 finishes, multiple different coaches taking GW to the NCAA tournament. You knew it could be done at GW. I think coming from a place like George Mason that's very DMV centric, coming from a private school like the University of Miami, I thought I was uniquely positioned to understand the job and the institution. And so we love Miami. We love our time there. We got great friends there. Certainly go back and visit. But we also love the idea of raising our family in the DMV and live in Northern Virginia, which we're pretty close across the river here. So I'm excited to be back, and I thought this was a great fit for me.
You mentioned success for the program. I think that's probably something that all coaches look at. Can I win there? Has anyone won there in the past? I would imagine that always factors into those kind of decisions. And for me, like the Carl Hobbs teams of the early 2000s with Pops
Yeah,
Mensah-Bonsu and J.R. Pinnock, like those were really fun teams to watch. And you mentioned the multiple NCAA tournament berths in a row. I think they went
great.
8 out of 14 years, like pretty good stretch like that. So
Yeah.
how do you get back to that level? I mean, it's dropped off a little bit here in the last couple of years and landscape's a little tougher. So what's sort of the move to get back to where you want to be?
Yeah, the landscape has changed, so we understand that we got to be adaptive there. Whether it's from facility standpoint, NIL standpoint, um, the way we operate. I think we're now operating in a way that is commiserate with the teams that are trying to be successful in our league. Can't really control what the metrics look like now and how those things have changed, or how many league games the Power Five decides they want to play and things like
Mhm.
that. But what I do know is the best version of GW. We can strive for that, and I think the best version of GW is going to be good enough to create quite a bit of success here. And so, we're trying to get updated. We're operating, in a way that I think is, on a higher level than maybe we have, just in terms of budget, travel, the way we feed our guys, things like that. We're involved, I think with uh, working on building a practice facility here. We do have a collective, NIL collective that obviously doesn't have anything to do with me or the university, but people who care about the program are looking to engage and invest in our student athletes. And so we're doing things, in real time, to bring the program up to speed and trying to get back to, what Coach Jarvis did and what, Coach Hobbs and, obviously Mike Lonergan, brought them back to the NCAA tournament and, and won the NIT championship and had 3 NBA players on that team. So it can be done at GW. The place is world class. We have an incredible location, and we just need to do the good work every day to get it back there.
You took a step in the right direction last year. It seemed like winning 16 games, you were above 500 in the league. I think that kind of exceeded a lot of the preseason projections for you guys. I'm sure you always want better than what people project and stuff too, but it seemed like kind of a good step in the right direction here. How do you take the next leap for this year's team? And I know you guys had a lot of success at Miami through the transfer portal. You've got a decent amount of transfers coming in this year too. Help you turn things around quicker in today's college basketball landscape if you're kind of adept at using things like the portal?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were early adapters of transfers at Miami for a number of different reasons. I think, the difference, Matt, was, back then guys were sitting out. So,
Sure.
We invested in those guys' development. And,
Hmm.
you had guys like, in our Elite 8 team, Cam McGusty, who sat out. You had Charlie Moore, who didn't sit out. You had Jordan Miller, who didn't sit out. But, those guys are all conference players. You had before that guys like Sheldon McClellan and Angel Rodriguez, who sat out and then became all conference players, led us to the Final Four. Kenny Kaji sat out. Shane Larkin didn't sit out, but he was a transfer, wound up being an all-league player. So, we had a number of guys do that. And, for me, everyone's in the game now, so it's a little bit more difficult, to try to
Hmm.
think through that. And yet, yes, you can turn your roster for the better. I think anybody who can figure out how to make the portal work in your favor, but then also maintain some level of continuity within your program, I think is critical. So, for us, 2 good examples obviously are James Bishop and Max Edwards. Those guys were transferred in. I was here when James was here, but we were able to keep James for a second year with me. And then Max obviously, was already redshirted at Kansas State when he transferred here and was Rookie of the Year. So finding ways to use it to your advantage, while also building out some level of continuity within your roster, I think is critical. And we have some of that this year, with the Garrett Johnsons from Princeton, the Jim Buchanan from Virginia Tech, Benny Schroeder from Oklahoma, guys that maybe did a year at another school and now they're here, and hopefully that, they can provide some talent, some balance, and some continuity.
You mentioned some of those guys in Miami had to sit out, and I think that gives you guys time to really integrate them into what you want to do, help them learn the way you want to play.
Yeah.
I think some of the stuff you guys are trying to do, especially defensively, is pretty complicated. It can take some time. When you have a lot of transfers, is that harder to kind of like incorporate those guys on the fly and really install all the things you want to, install quickly?
Well, I think you have to become adept at it. I think, I've always thought that the junior college coaches were great coaches because those guys, really put their teams together in June and every year. And yet, I thought, if you go watch, great junior college basketball throughout the country back in the day, there was talented guys that were very well coached. I think if you look at guys, like a Chris Beard or a Dana Altman, come to mind. I think Brad Underwood was a junior college coach, Steve Forbes, junior, guys that I know personally that I've always had respect for their time in junior college because their rosters turned over so much. Also, if you think about G League coaches, I have a lot of friends that have coached in the G League and their rosters change, almost within the season. So I think college coaches have been very spoiled, Division I coaches in particular, throughout the years because there has been some continuity on their rosters and they've been able to build years and years out. Whereas, a lot of other, high school, junior college, coaches, even some at the lower levels, like it's changed. Their rosters have changed much more than ours have. So I think we just have to become adept at it and learn, and we can probably take a page out of those guys' books.
Good friend of mine, Chris Chaney, is a prep school coach from the area. I always see his programs firsthand, and he's always talking about, he's been doing transfer portal for 20 years, basically.
Nothing new to those guys.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. You mentioned continuity here and bringing James Bishop back. For anybody that's not familiar with him, the guy absolutely can put the ball in the basket. Not that he doesn't do other things as well, but probably one of the, smart picks with Vegas to lead the conference in scoring again, I would imagine. Got Max Edwards coming back. He's a guy that I would think would be on the high list of breakout candidates for the conference overall. Does that really help you kind of establish an identity right up front when you have these two guys coming back, and then you can kind of work the pieces around them as you fill in things like through the transfer portal and with recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously James is a Player of the Year candidate. He was a Player of the Year candidate last year. I think there was a case you could make that he was the Player of the Year last year.
Sure.
First player in the Atlantic 10, I think, since 2003 to average 21 and 5 or something. I thought, one of the things for me when I got here was, his ability to his ability to play the point was something that was maybe, 2 years before, I think he had played the point. They moved him off the ball the next year. And obviously that, that coaching staff maybe, had some other pieces that they felt like they needed to look at him off the ball. But, for me, it was a little bit of, it's all I had. But, putting the ball in his hands, we found out very quickly he was a great decision maker and he was an unselfish player. And so we really benefited from that. I think Max has been a guy, Brendan Adams was the most improved player in the league last year. He won that award. But I think if you ask our staff, Max really was the most improved player throughout the season.
Sure.
Max, from where he came from, having an injury at Kansas State and really didn't get a chance to even play throughout the season, to what he was doing at the end of the year. And we could see on film, the improvements he was making. I thought he took another nice jump this summer. He's in incredible shape. He's in great shape. He's a very, fluid athlete, guy with great touch, shot good percentage from three. And so, for me, I have the luxury of those two guys. Now I have a lot of new guys, an inexperienced group. I think a talented group with great character, the type of guys we want to represent GW, but inexperienced. So we're going to have to work through some of that. But to have those two guys gives us an opportunity to, have a little bit of we know what we have here with those two.
I've heard you say in the past that you want to have 5 guys on the floor that can pass, dribble, shoot, and that makes it very difficult to defend. That way you can spread people out. and the ability to share the ball, to be selfless. Previous Miami teams come to mind when you think of that, and the multiple guards with the Cam McGuskies of the world out there next to Isaiah Wongs and players like that. I think James Bishop and these guys seem to fit that mold. Is that something you really kind of keyed in on with the other guys you've added to this roster as well?
Yeah, I think we wanted to improve our versatility. We wanted to improve our shooting. I don't think we're exceptionally big, in the front court, but we are skillful and long and athletic and versatile. I also think we need to protect the rim better. I think, Stretch, Akimbola from Auburn is a guy who I think is a legit defender in our league. We could give up some skill, in places if we can add defensive versatility and size. And so, that's the balance. I mean, obviously the teams that defend and rebound are going to be the teams that win. I think that's an area we know we needed to address and attack. And I think we were able to do that. While we might not be doing it with great experience, I think just across the board, we're able to get more versatility, more length defensively.
You've got a reputation as a great player development coach and get guys better playing under you. How do you balance bringing in a player that has some of those skills already, and maybe you don't have to work on them as much with skill development versus a talented guy where maybe they need a little bit more work refining some of those skills? I guess, how do you kind of juggle those two things when you're looking to build out a roster?
Everybody gets assessed on, what are their strengths, and how do we help them soar with their strengths and utilize and leverage those abilities. And yet also we believe in being a development program. We do, we have a growth mindset. We do believe guys can get better. We spend a tremendous amount of time with them individually. I think we would give up some team time in the summer and the fall to try to spend time with them individually as players, because we believe that better players is going to be a better team. And certainly now that we've started practice and we're doing a lot of 5-on-5 and a lot of defensive install and offensive install. But, for our players in the summer, I think they would tell you, we're not, having team practice 4 days a week. We are spending quite a bit of time on, whether it be retooling somebody's shot or working on specific footwork or whatever it is that player we diagnose he needs to either soar with his strengths or get better at. I think our staff really dives into that and spends a lot of time on it. And I think a lot of people probably do as well. But I also think there's people who talk about it and then are more, trying to have team practice in the summer. It's just, I think it makes for a long season when you do that too.
I think when you have a track record of being able to show, a lot of these Miami guys under you got a lot better. I think that's a pretty straightforward thing to be able to say. It probably helps for recruiting and being a transfer destination, because guys know if they have a certain thing they have to target and work on, this is a place they can come and really improve in that area.
Yeah, I talked about it a lot, but it always came from the lens of being an assistant coach. Sure. And I understand, hey, I wasn't ultimately the head coach. And the best thing about last season, other than, showing the ability to win a little bit in the league and things like that, was, we can now demonstrate, hey, James, went from third team to first team and certainly I think had a much better year. Brendan Adams goes from, kind of dead in the water as a prospect to third team all league, most improved player, played in the NBA Summer League. Max Edwards goes from a kind of a no-name person, to the rookie of the year. So, even the other two guys in our rotation starters, Ricky Lindo and Hunter Dean, their offensive efficiency was the best of their career. I mean, both those guys, I think, had career years. So, now we can point to it at GW, and I think a lot of the stuff that we developed as a staff and under Coach Laranaga's leadership at Miami, we've brought it to GW, and I think it's paid some dividends for the players.
You guys were really good offensively last year, I thought, and just a little improvement defensively obviously helps on the defensive end, but it seems like that would help your offense even more, just being able to.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
we spent. I
joke with people. We spent 80% of our time once we got going on the defense. We ultimately, I thought, gave effort, but we had some challenges defensively. One I would say, and I can put on myself, is we made a change that I think was helpful midseason. I probably could have done it defensively early in the year, and that's on me, and probably cost us a game or two. But then I also think making the change midseason allowed us to have a good record in the league. And I also think when you look at our roster, We just were not, for whatever reason, as it turns out. We had great guys. We had pretty good pieces that fit offensively. We had very little defensive versatility, very little depth, and we had some challenges in terms of, just from a personnel standpoint, ability to defend at the rim. So I think we've tried to address those in the offseason, and hopefully we can take a big step forward there.
Is the plan this year to get away from kind of drop coverage and get back to being more switchable and things like that, or is it too early to tell?
We switched to drop coverage mid-season, and it was good for us. A little too early to tell. We're working on a few different things. I did feel like early in the year, my last year at Miami, we led the ACC in turning people over. We became a very disruptive defense. I knew it wasn't the same team, but I wanted to try to see if I could get guys to give that type of effort early in the year. And quite honestly, it probably in some ways helped us. But in other ways, we probably were in too many rotations. We were flying around too much for a team that just didn't quite have the depth or the ability to do that. And so when we went to the drop, starting in league play, while the numbers were not great or anything, I think it gave us a chance, and it's why we were able to have some success in the league.
What should fans expect from GW basketball this year? What's the calling card? Like, what do you guys want to hang your hat on with this year's group coming up?
Well, I think a well-balanced team that has versatility, that plays very, very hard, that is an exciting team to watch offensively, and a team defensively that you can, appreciate, their efforts and how hard they're going to play. And that's what we're striving for. I mean, we're not a gimmicky operation here. We try to play good on both sides of the ball. We try to play hard. We try to, do the basic things in terms of, defend our position, rebound the ball, share the ball, take good shots. It's not rocket science for us. Trying to get to do that every day is a challenge for all teams, and so we'll just strive to do that. But I do think we have more athletic ability. We've got more shooting ability. We got more versatility. Allowed us to be a little bit more, I think tougher defensively, which is a big key for us.
Is getting more homegrown talent on the priority list for you guys to build this program back up? We talked about the level of talent here in the DMV. You've had a lot of success as a recruiter overall, but you also know the area from your time recruiting here in Mason and stuff. Is that big on the list?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, my time at George Mason was filled with local players, including the current head coach, Tony Skinn, who's a great guy, and I'm so happy for him and his opportunity at George Mason. I think he'll do a tremendous job, and he embodies a lot of the things that George Mason's all about, and he'll be a great representative of the university there. I'm just thrilled for him and his family, and thrilled that Lamar Butler, another local player, is on staff there. Just so happy for those guys. I mean, I'm not going to root for them when we play, but other than that, I'm pulling for those guys to have success, and just so proud of them. For me, yes, we're going to have local players here, whether it be Baltimore, the D.C. area, Northern Virginia. You look at Jim Buchanan, you look at James Bishop, you look at Garrett Johnson, you look at Jacoy Hutchinson. You even look at a guy like Trey Autry, who was born in Northern Virginia. His mom's from Reston, went to Georgetown. Obviously, his dad's the new head coach at Syracuse. But, yeah, we're always going to want players from this area to be at GW because, quite frankly, I mean, this is the best basketball area in the country by far. And so we're uniquely located. We're not in a suburb. We're not, 20 miles out or whatever, or 15 miles out, or, in a different state. We are in the district, and we are centrally located, and we are an elite academic institution in the city of Washington. So we want to attract people from the area here, whether that's out of high school or whether that's people returning here in this new world of the transfer portal. That being said, we are a global institution. And so, we're going to have players from our team, as GW's had for many, many years, from all over the world. And we can attract people from all over the world. And then we can also attract really good players from, up and down 95, where we have a great, alumni base. We have as strong an alumni base in New York City as any school in the country. I was there last week at Yankee Stadium, hosted by Randy Levine, the president of the Yankees, who's a GW grad. And we had a box full of 20, really successful GW people from the New York area. So, we're going to be up and down, and we can go to the major cities. We can go to Los Angeles. We can go to Chicago. We can go to Houston and Dallas and places that, we have a presence. And so I do think we're a national brand, and yet we're also smack dab in the middle of the greatest basketball cities in the country. And so we're always going to be a factor there.
Any specific goals for this year's team? I'm assuming not wins and losses or anything like that, but like, what are you really looking to be able to see from your team?
Well, I mean, I hate to be vague with these things, but I thought we took a huge step forward last year, right? To have a winning record in the league for the first time in 6 years, to do some things maybe that hadn't been done in a while here. We got to take another step forward. And we all know what that looks like, right? In terms of what your record is, the type of fan support you get, the way your players improve. Like, we got to continue to do that. We're not certainly not satisfied with the year we had, although we're encouraged by it. And so, I'm not big into. We don't talk about winning a lot with our guys. We talk about getting better. We talk about the process of getting better. It sounds like a cliche these days, but it's the way I was brought up in the business. And so, for me, I'm excited about what I think we can do going forward, but we got a lot of work to do to get there.
Just want to talk about you specifically here for a little bit, if that's okay. You played at Westfield State University in Massachusetts. You're a point guard, team captain. Why is it always the point guards that make such good coaches, and especially guys that have been captains at some point?
I think the tall guys get upset about that the short guys, the shorter guys get the coaching jobs, I guess. I don't know. I think I'm a gym rat. I've loved the game since I was very young, and wasn't a great player by any stretch. But I got intoxicated with the game of basketball, with coaching, with leadership, with the mentoring of young people. And my high school coach, Jack Curran, who's since passed away, but was a legendary high school coach in New York City. He's the winningest baseball and basketball coach in the state. He's got over 2,000 wins in both sports, and he embodied all the things that I think Coach Larinaga, who also played for him, myself, and others, thought a coach should be. Somebody who cared for the student athletes, for their development, for them after they were done playing for him, and the impact that a coach can have on not just the player, but generations of people that are connected to the player and families. And so for me, I think that's what coaching is. It's a mechanism to, really have an impact on people's lives through a game that we all love. And it's I've never really worked a day in my life, and so I'm proud of that because it's been a blast.
You also started out doing some video coordinator work at George Mason as well, and it seems like a lot of the most successul coaches have started in the film room. Why do you think that is? Does it help you kind of see the game a certain way and break down?
You kind of get your reps. You get your 10,000 hours of film work. I did every scout at George Mason, Miami for 10 years. I will say, the guys that are coming up now with all the technology and synergy and all this stuff, I mean, they're far more advanced, these young video guys. And
they're not cutting tape the old-fashioned way.
No, they're far more advanced in terms of their acumen technically than we were, because we were spending time. I was not in the deck-to-deck era. That I can't say I was. We were using editing systems, but they were not the best editing systems back then. Right?
I had to do it the hard way for journalism school and stuff too.
I remember the Final Four year we were working on the editing system with like a screwdriver, sometimes. So, but yeah, I think just getting those reps of 10,000 hours worth of video helped certainly a lot of guys, and I think that's why you see now it's become so much easier, and guys are just so bright in terms of their ability to. I mean, you could just go on Twitter and find an endless amount of great content about the game, and the game has obviously grown so much globally as well. So, it's an exciting time. I think college basketball is sort of catching up to, Europe and the NBA in terms of style. You see a lot of really interesting ways of playing, and it makes a great product, I think.
Speaking of Twitter, mentioned there a second ago, how does it feel to have somebody like Woj break the news that you're taking a coaching job? I think that was the first person I saw report that. That's got to be
yeah.
cool.
Woj is a really good personal friend of mine, so
Okay.
it was sort of he he was able to get that scoop. Sure, really important scoop for him. But yeah, no, he's even though he's a Bonaventure fan, we all know that. He did come to a couple of GW games last year, and I got some pictures of him in GW gear that we can use against the Bonnies sometime, if we have to.
There you go. You got to keep that in the back pocket just in case. There was it tough to leave Miami at all, knowing the trajectory they were headed in, and then do you feel a part of last year's Final Four run? I mean, you helped get a lot of those guys there. Like, what's that relationship like? And you still talk to Coach Larranaga a lot.
Yeah, I'm so proud of those guys. So happy. I'm so glad they were able to kind of break through. My last we had been the 2 Sweet 16s and then an Elite 8 the last year, and we were up 6 at halftime on Kansas my last year. So would have been nice to be a part of a second Final Four, but there's no regrets there. I'm so happy for Coach that he was able to, do it now at 2 different places for you to make the Final Four, 2 different schools that had never been. I think is just a testament to him, and it's obvious, he's a Hall of Fame coach. I think that's it's obvious. I don't think there's any question about that at this point. And very, very happy for everyone there, and great support from the administration there, the board of visitors. I mean, great friends of mine on in both those areas, and just a lot of love for everybody there, and happy for the way the program is, and I'm very proud of what we were able to do there. In a place that had not necessarily had a ton of success, or had some choppy success. That Coach Larranaga has been able to do what he has over time, going into, I Bleav, year 13 now. Really one of the better teams in the league over that time. So just very happy to have been a part of it.
I've heard you say in the past that you're a big restaurant guy, and Zaytinya was one of your go-tos. Is that still a favorite?
Yeah, it's probably my favorite. Yeah, it's probably my favorite in DC. I mean, I got a lot of, it's funny when I got back here, there's so many new restaurants, it's hard to keep up.
Sure.
But Zaytinya has been the one. Jose Andres has a relationship with GW too. He's got the I think it's the World Food Institute is now connected to the university in a partnership. I don't know him personally, but I'm hoping to get him to a game at some point, because I know he's a big basketball fan as well, and so I got to work on that one. But yeah, Zaytinya has been a great restaurant for 20 years, and it's funny. My wife and I will talk about, hey, where do you want to go to dinner? And inevitably, even though we have tried a lot of great restaurants in DC, that's sort of the staple for when people come in town.
I love it. Yeah, it's a good one to recommend to anybody, because they're going to enjoy their experience there.
Hey, no doubt.
Can you give us one fun fact that people might not know about you, a guilty pleasure TV show or music or something like that?
Man, I think this has been documented by a few people, but I'm a big JFK assassination buff.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Any conspiracy theories there? Or?
Oh, well, there's plenty of theories
that you're sold on, at least.
No, listen, I live in McLean now, so I can't really speak too much to it. I'm a little too close. But I have great relationship with Mike Lombardi. Mike is into it as well, and so we have some fun reading about this stuff and theorizing different things. So that's my guilty pleasure. But I think there may be some people who know that already.
That's awesome. I like that. If somebody's not been to a GW game before, what's the sales pitch? Like, how do we get them to come out here? What are they going to expect to see this year?
Look, I think we have an incredible arena. I think the Smith Center, especially with the work that's been done by our administration to really make it the place is sparkling, and we have brand new floor, new seats. It's 5,000 seats. It creates an incredible environment. We've got a great student section. I think it really feels like a great college basketball environment, and I've been in a lot of them. And I think, centrally located right in the district, I think we're gonna play a fun brand of basketball. I think people who came to our games last year really had great experiences. The arena itself is really an asset, a gem, not only for the university, but I think for the district. I just think it's a special place. I've been in it when it's packed. I played in it twice as an opposing coach when there were great environments. I went to games here, even when I was at George Mason when Coach Hobbs had it rolling, and it's just an incredible environment. I think people who went to GW have great memories of being in the Smith Center when it's packed. And COVID obviously took a chunk out of everybody in this area, and so we're working to build this back. But I don't think there's a better environment, for the price and the central location that we have than the Smith Center. It's a special arena, and as we continue to get going, and watching guys like James Bishop and Max Edwards and others, I just think it's a great ticket, and I think people come out of there feeling really good about just being in the arena.
I think I've seen some projections that have you guys in the lower half of the league standings, and I know you all probably don't care much about that, but to me, that seems crazy. You seem like a team on the way up, and there's a lot of talent on that roster.
Yeah, it helps me. It helps me motivate, so I'm fine there. And I think, listen, these projections are really tough right now with the transfer portal, knowing exactly, who's got what. So I don't really pay much attention to it. Again, my last year at Miami, I think we were picked 12th, and we wound up going to the Elite Eight. So we were in first place like after the first 10 games of league play. So I feel good about where we're at. I'm not too concerned.
I think just from the homework I've done and the names I know and the success you guys had in year one and the players you bring back, I would be shocked if you don't surprise a lot of those people that are sleeping on you a little bit. So I think for anybody that hasn't seen a game, I plan on coming out to a couple this year. I'm looking forward to it. I hope everybody else listening to this does and checks the guys out. Coach, anything else you want to leave DMV basketball fans with?
Listen, I appreciate you, Matt, what you're doing. I just think it's probably understated, actually, how great this area is for basketball. I think I've been around when the Wizards have, rolling and in the playoffs, and those are special environments, and people care. College basketball is awesome in this area. I remember my time at George Mason. We're really, really good, and we've got 10,000 people in the Patriot Center, but you know what? Georgetown was filled. They had it rolling. Maryland, great, obviously, student environment there. GW, great building. American's been good. Howard is getting good. I just think this is a special area for basketball. The high school basketball, the high school coaching, the way people care. If you're a basketball person, this to me has become the Mecca, and I say that as a New Yorker. I love my New York basketball history, but this is now a place that across the board is special. And, I think we need to do more things like what you're doing, Matt. I would hope that, our local publications and television and people like that can accentuate that, because there are very few things that any area can claim to have the best of. Mm-hmm. And when you do have the best of something, which we do here in basketball, it needs to be celebrated.
I love that. I might have to clip that for a soundbite for the show, because I think that's exactly what we're trying to impress upon people. So I think that's perfectly well said and a pretty good place to cut it. Awesome. Coach, thank you so much for doing this. Good luck this season. I hope you hit the goals you have for the team, but also stay healthy along the way. I know that's always a big component.
Yes.
Yeah. And we look forward to following the success this year and all the years to come. So thanks again, everybody. This was Bleav in DMV Hoops. Please rate, review, subscribe, all that stuff. Hit the little notification button. And we are presented by betonline.ag, and we will catch you all next time.
Thanks so much.